Let's talk generational curses and how it's so important to be mindful of the sins that you commit, but also praying and asking God to break away those chains so that certain curses and sins do not pass through your bloodline. David had two main generational curses that he passed down to all of his sons. It was either sexual immorality or unaliving. So in that one scenario, along with Bathsheba, he committed the sexual immorality and he committed unaliving. Now listen to each one of his kids either dealt with one or the other. So David had tons of kids, and his son Amnon took advantage of his own sister Tamar. So that's the first time we hear about the generational curse. Because Amnon took advantage of his sister Tamar, his brother Absalom unalives him. So now Amnon is deceased and Absalom, his own brother, took him out. David was mad at Absalom for what he did to his brother, right? Absalom flees town because David is upset that Absalom took out his own brother. And then I think about 2 years later, David starts missing Absalom, so he calls for him to come back. But Absalom comes back with a vengeance. So Absalom comes back and now he wants to take over his father's throne. So now Absalom is on the wild goose chase trying to unalive his own father David, just like Saul did in the past. So what happens is David has to flee town because his son is out to get him. And while David is away, Absalom literally gets on the roof of his house, takes some of David's concubines, and has a fest with them. And I'm not talking about a party hat cake fest. I'm talking about a sexual immorality sinning fest. So they do that on the rooftop so that the Israelites can see, so that Absalom can put shame on his father David. So that's the third, fourth, fifth time we see this generational curse. So now Absalom is chasing David down after he sleeps with some of his concubines on the rooftop. And y'all know God always comes through for David. So Absalom never caught his father David. What happens is David was on the mule and he hit the tree and then it knocked him over, and then David's people take out Absalom. So now Absalom is gone, right? And y'all, the crazy thing about this is in the midst of all this happening, a man stops David and he literally says, "The same bad things are happening to you. The Lord has given the kingdom to your son Absalom because you are a murderer." So basically just proving the fact that these generational curses are coming right down his bloodline. But anyway, fast forward, God saves David. David continues to rule on the throne until he gets old. King David passes away. He gives the kingdom to his son Solomon, which is Bathsheba's son. But his other son Adonijah also wants to be king. But since Solomon was already appointed to be king, Adonijah asked his brother Solomon, well, since you're the king, give me one of Dad's wives. There you go with that sexual immorality again. Why do you want to marry one of your father's wives? Anyway, Solomon is like, bro, you're crazy. Why do you want one of our dad's wives? And then he calls a hit on his brother. So throughout this story, every single one of David's kids that we hear about has one of the two generational curses that David passed down to them. It's either the sexual immorality or the unaliving. Y'all got to be so careful about the sins that you commit, and y'all also got to be very, very careful about praying and asking God to break those generational curses. We do not want to unintentionally pass things on to our children and generations to come. Pray away them generational curses, and y'all stay blessed.